welcome to Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football. I am one of your hosts, Desmond. I've got my partner Dre with me. I've got Mark Rogers here with us as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. Before we get started, please like and subscribe and also share the video out to social media. We definitely appreciate it. We are on our quest to 5,000 subscribers here on YouTube. And then also, while you're at it, please subscribe to Mark's main channel, The Voice of College Football. He is quickly trending towards 34,000 subscribers. So yeah, we definitely appreciate it. And please subscribe and join Mark's Discord to join the conversation and topics of what's going on. So, gentlemen, how we doing today? Dre, how you doing, my man?
Pretty good. So
You know, hanging in there. It's warm in Michigan, so we've got that going for us. But where I am, it's raining and has been for probably 6 hours. So, but you know, I'm thankful it's not snow.
my friend.
For sure, for sure. Mark, how we doing?
Doing well. I'm going to brag about the weather. I can't do that very often. So, like I told Des before we started to record, like high 60s and sunny for about 3 or 4 days. And today, bam, 75 and sunny. So, man, it feels good. Like I was like, this is one nice thing about what I do is, I can work at 2 a.m. or 10 in the afternoon, whatever it turns out to be. So once the weather gets nice, I always take a nice little break during the afternoon and get outside and went down to the park, shot some hoops. And then even when I got back, I'm like, man, it's so nice. It's nice just to be outside. I just walked out on the deck and just sat out there for a while, like for some more time in the sunshine. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's Dre and I actually had a conversation yesterday, and I could hear it was like 64 here in Michigan, and I could literally hear the smile on his face as he's talking. He's like, doesn't when it's sunny out, he's like, doesn't it just make you feel good? And I'm like, it does. I'm like, it's amazing. It just, they people talk about, the vitamin D and just the sunlight. It helps with the mood. It really is it's a game changer. It really is. There's a lot of views and research on that, and here in Michigan, at least, I know they talk about the winter blues that a lot of people get, which is essentially the lack of vitamin D and sunshine. Which yeah,
I had a girlfriend for a long time. She was from California, so believe me, when she lived here in Connecticut, I would hear about it.
That's a heck of a move. Heck of a move.
In terms of living, you're talking about down. My goodness, weather. Not you, Mark. The weather. That's pretty rough.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. So yeah, we're obviously here going to talk about a little bit about Michigan football, and I also have a topic to talk about as far as some rumors, not Michigan football, but Michigan related. But first things first, definitely want to make sure that we pay our respects. Unfortunately, the news of Dwayne Haskins passing was in the last couple days, and I was talking to Mark before we went live. The rivalry, it's all fine and good, and it's awesome, and love the jabs and things like that. But when something tragic like this happens, we definitely all want to come together, and it's like I said, unfortunate. 24-year-old young man, just an awful scene, awful situation, and just tragic. So definitely prayers to Dwayne Haskins, his family, his friends, teammates, and just everyone he's impacted in his life. It's just such an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, I mean, I echo those sentiments. It's because it's not just like a football player who passed tragically. This is a young man. This is a human being. At a very very young age, when she's trying to figure himself out as a person, trying to figure himself out as a in his profession, and he's just at that age where you are bridging the gap between young adulthood and full adulthood. and it's very, very unfortunate that happened to him. It's even being a Michigan fan, he definitely left an imprint on this rivalry. He definitely left an imprint on me as a Michigan fan in a bad way. He's given me some of my, in his due to his hands, and Don Brown's coaching philosophy gave me one of my worst experiences in a rivalry. With the 60 Burger in 2018. And also, Des, remember we would joke about it at work when he came in. I believe it was the previous year, was it 2017? At Michigan, JT Barrett goes out, and I'm thinking in my head, even though we had John O'Corn playing at quarterback, I'm thinking in my head maybe we have a shot here to upset Ohio State in Ann Arbor. And this kid Dwayne Haskins comes in, holding call or a delay of game, something like that, where it was like 3rd and 15 or whatever it was. It was like 3rd and long, and like his second snap in his career felt like he probably had a couple, you know, pointless snaps, but like high leverage situation. He does a little clap, and we were joking. He points to both sides, and I remember he threw a freaking laser, in which
Down the right sideline. Yep.
on the right sideline. Can't remember who caught the ball for Ohio State, and it just took it took everything from me. I'm like, oh my god, and he proceeds to have a very good career there. So it's very, very unfortunate. I think a lot of us, no matter if you were a Michigan fan or Ohio State fan, thought he was a very talented kid and was on his way to having a very successful NFL career. And now we'll never know because he was still very, very early. So definitely unfortunate.
Yeah, I think the thing that I think about was just how, just kind of talking about just on field memories of obviously his historic season that he had, throwing 50 touchdowns, I believe, that year. But just how different that the Ohio State offense looked from a quarterback perspective. I think that might have been if it was Ryan Day's first year or Urban's last year, I think. But it was unique because when I typically think about an Ohio State quarterback under Urban Meyer, I think of a Braxton Miller, JT Barrett, like a guy who's kind of the dual threat. He's going to run a little bit or a lot, depending on with Braxton, but also throw it too. Whereas, Dwayne was a very different type of quarterback. He was probably what you would consider the prototypical, pocket quarterback, but was still, really successful. So it was cool that he, although wasn't that typical mold as far as what an Urban Meyer quarterback would be, still just wildly, wildly successful. And like I said, just to reiterate, just a pretty unfortunate and just tragic situation with this passing. So,
Like Mark, you want to say something?
You guys pretty well covered it. We certainly talked about it during our Ohio State show today, and we were live for spring football on Saturday, and heard about that news, which took precedence over anything, of course, on Saturday. But Des and I were talking before we started to go live, and the couple things that go through my mind with anybody of that age passing away. Number one, we hear about celebrities unless it personally affects us. We hear about the celebrities, and it brings to mind that there are teenagers and 20 somethings going down for various reasons every day and impacting family and friends all the time. And it's just, that's how short that life is. It's just, and we only get one, and it's just kind of hard to take when you think about it that way. And then also with him having a spouse, having, I don't know how many children it was, but I found out, when the news was starting to come out, people were sending out information that I didn't realize he was married and a father. So then there's more people that are severely impacted. To lose a parent at that young age is just devastating.
yeah, Yeah, we were talking earlier, and it just, there's really nothing you can really, say. It's just an unfortunate situation. So I definitely, although we, are here and we're the rivals on the other side, definitely wanted to pay some respects to Dwayne as well as the Ohio State family. Go ahead, Mark.
And you guys hit on the play that I think of first when I think of Dwayne Haskins, and that's him coming in for JT Barrett. Boom, he delivers to Austin Mack. You guys outlined it perfectly. They're down by a score. They come back, win the game. And another thing to keep in mind, to put his one season, the next season, 2018, Ohio State could have been selected for the playoffs. They were on that line with Oklahoma, but they go 13-1. They win the Big Ten championship. They win the Rose Bowl. They finish in the top 3. When you look at the history of Big Ten football and the quarterbacks that have come through Breeze, Tom Brady, Otto Graham, you can go all over the place down the line, Bob Greasy, and all sorts of great quarterbacks. That Dwayne Haskins has the all-time single season touchdown record with 50. It's says a lot.
Yeah, it definitely does. Especially, I think the one that I would think about is Breeze would be up there. But honestly, I think a lot of, and I haven't checked or anything like that, but I remember Kyle Orton, his last year, they flung it around a lot at Purdue. And well, you had Taylor Stubblefield. He had some good, they had a good offense his last year. So I actually would have figured he would be up there as far as, the record books. But yeah, Dwayne he holds that record. So it's pretty impressive with all, like you mentioned, all the quarterbacks that have come through. With the Big Ten. I mean, Michigan, shoot, John O'Corn. He dude was.
Wait, what are you doing? don't do that. Don't not do that. I mean, and Mark, I think, and I remember, I vividly remember talking to Des the next day after that 2017 game, and I'm like, dude, like this kid's a redshirt freshman, like so, and that was, I remember either he was a redshirt freshman or a redshirt sophomore. I just know he had at least 2 or 3 years of eligibility left at the time, and I'm thinking, you got to understand context. I've gone from, previously Terrell Pryor to Braxton Miller to, JT Barrett, and in terms of rival quarterbacks that my team has had to go against. And I'm like, all right, JT's about to leave. He's almost gone. Maybe we get a little bit of a break, and to see that kid come in that leverage spot, it was so debilitating. Come like, oh my God. Me and Des and I would say, like, they're a machine. Like, they just, especially, they just, one guy leaves, they plug in another guy in their offense, and he just lights it up. They don't miss a beat. I would never forget that moment. Like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
I vividly remember that. You're like, they got another one? Like, JT Barrett's gone, and then we got to deal with this guy now? Yeah.
For the next 2 or 3 years. And it was like, come on, man. Like, give me a break. And you got to keep it, like, again, context, right? Opposite side of Dwayne Haskins at this time is John O'Corn. We don't have Shea Patterson at this point. So, it wasn't a very good outlook on Michigan football in terms of their competition level with Ohio State at the time. So, Dwayne will always have a vivid memory in my experience in this rivalry for sure. So,
I guess the other direction of the context would be on that sideline, on the same sideline, was Joe Burrow.
Oh, yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, even think about him. That just shows you something. Like, Joe Burrow was literally at least, I don't know, it's probably different for Ohio State fan. You probably knew about Joe Burrow pretty well, especially you, Mark. But as a Michigan fan, Joe Burrow is not on. But we had enough on our hands. We couldn't worry about the third or fourth guy in the back. Because like the guy who's playing now is more than enough to give us headaches. So it's like, we weren't worried about, like, yes. So you guys were loaded. We thought Tate Martell was going to be a problem. Turned out not to be. So we were always worried about, You know, it was a point in time, no matter who Ohio State had a quarterback, you're like, yeah, he's probably going to be good. You know, probably going to be good. You know, so, you know, as long as he's mobile, as long as he has a good arm, Urban Meyer's going to figure out a way to make him very, very effective. So,
yep.
And
now he's passed that torch over to old Ryan Day, and quarterbacks are still slinging it. So, perfect. So we got a couple questions coming in. So before we get into our topics, Ed Rogers, who is a regular on the show, thanks so much, Ed, for the comment. But he says, can Michigan seriously replace those first rounders on defense? And I'm assuming he's talking about, for sure, Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo, probably Dax Hill in there as well.
He could slide in the first round.
Say it again.
He can. I'm sorry. He can possibly. Dax Hill can probably slide into the first round.
Let's for sake of discussion, let's call him a first rounder. I think he'll be close, but let's call him let's call him a first rounder. So do you think, Dre, I'll kick it to you first. Do you think Michigan can replace those guys on defense?
Well, I don't think they can replace them individual to individual, but I think in terms of overall production, possibly. I mean, that's what you have to do when you're losing big time players like that. I mean, it's unrealistic unless you're one of the very, very lucky teams like, you know, Georgia's, you know, the Alabama's, Ohio State at times, in which you can just lose first rounders and plug them. You know, case in point, Ohio State, you know, it's rare where you can go from a Joey Bosa to a Nick Bosa to a Chase Young. You know, that's just a very, very rare. You don't see that. It's crazy, but it's just you don't see that very often, right? You go from I'm gonna say this out of order. You know, Eli Apple to a Marcus Lattimore to a or vice versa, or you know, Jeff Okuda, you know, whatever it is, you know. So you know, but Michigan hasn't been able to sustain that level of recruiting development where they can just lose big time first round pick players and automatically plug them in the next year. But what they can do is make sure that they have good overall production as a committee, right? So you may not be able to have the two-man monster and David Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson, but you know, with Mike Morris and the rest of those guys, you know, you can have overall good production where you can still find ways to get pressure and force turnovers and just have guys step up. You know, same thing in the backfield. You know, so yeah, that's just one of the things that they're just going to have to work on. You know, and that, like I said last week, the biggest thing that they can do, and until guys start to surface themselves and make a name for themselves and become playmakers on their own, is do the fundamental things right. You know, tackling is key, right? And also being as penalty free as possible. You know, just being, like you said, as we talk about all the time, playing smart football, understanding your assignments. Those are the little things you can do when you don't have quote unquote game breakers on your defense. So, Ed, I don't think they can do it individual to individual, but I think they can do it by committee.
Okay, Mark, what are your thoughts?
I think one thing that you could possibly benefit from long term would be, it looks like right now between Taylor Upshaw, Braden McGregor, and then also with their backups, Jalen Harrell and Mike Morris, you've got it looks like they're going to play, at least start out with like four guys, two at each end spot, and the non-conference schedule's light. You play those guys a lot of reps. You see if, okay, does this work where we just keep these guys fresh and they're all about the same, or does somebody become a stud? Well, they're going to take 90% of the snaps and we'll rotate on the other side, or, you know, they can kind of figure it out and find, who's playing above the other two or three, or is it just a flat out rotation? And I think, you know, maybe in the long run, they've got players that are a little fresher down the stretch than just relying on, you know, they were in a good situation last year with having more than just Aiden Hutchinson, with basically Ojabo being able to play off of him and take advantage of the double teams on the other side. But they're not in that good shape. At least it doesn't appear to be at this point, but I still think they've got all these guys were highly recruited, and we'll see what they've got. But I would think that they're going to have a have quite the rotation going, at least to start, before they figure out what they've got.
Yeah, and I think it's to me, can they replace those first rounders? It's always hard to replace the type of impact and just the type of players that you saw, especially with the guys on the D line with Aiden and Ojabo. But what I think is most likely to happen is I think Mike Morris, Upshaw, and I believe it was, who am I thinking? Smith. So I think those guys are going to be impact players for you, but I think what's most likely to happen is your back end's probably going to be better. Like that's what I think uh, is going to manifest this season is I think your D line, you're not going to get what did Aiden have? Something like, 50, 60 pressures, like something just silly. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we'll see any of the D linemen have that, but I think you might be a little better on the back end to where, your DBs can cover a little longer, and you guys are a little more experienced on the back end. So I think that's what most likely it's going to look like versus still having Aiden going to a DN going for 15, 16 sacks. I most likely don't think that's going to happen, but
Yeah.
that's why we play the game. So we
Yeah,
never know.
and Antoine, I think it's in lockstep with me. It's all about, you don't have to worry about initially, having, um, you know, game breakers. Just, they don't always have to make plays for you to be a successful defense, right? It's about everybody doing their jobs, playing sound football, assignment sound football, fundamental football, and you can survive and be solid, right? And as we've already said, as we've been consistent with this, the strength of this team is going to be their offense, at least preliminarily speaking. We think like this offense is going to be really good this year, no matter who's at quarterback. They just have so many weapons, and you would think another year together with the experience they had last year, they should be even more efficient this year, and maybe even more explosive. So, for this Michigan team to be successful, they can just have a solid defense, um, and a really good offense. They're going to win a lot of football games this fall, especially with the strength of their schedule. So, um, I don't worry about that. And Fatal Gator said Harbaugh is a good recruiter and doesn't get credit for it from most people outside of Michigan. Oh, cool. Yeah, he is a good recruiter. I think just the University of Michigan itself, it's Michigan's always recruited well. Even in the Brady Hoke years, they always recruited well. I think what I won't say it's level of concern, but the question mark would be, okay, now that you've had this breakout season, so to speak, in which you've won the Big Ten, you got to the college football playoff. Clearly, your team was spearheaded by, um, I don't want to say, I'm going to be very careful with saying elite talent. I would say really good NFL talent, first round talent. How do you replace that? How do you find that next wave of really good football players? Not, you're going to have your kids, you're going to be 4-year kids who probably not going to have much of an NFL future, but they're contributing kids on special teams, defense, and from depth, offense, depth, but they're not going to have much of a future in the NFL, right? And then you have your kids who have legitimate NFL aspirations because they're that talented. Well, how does Harbaugh able to, handle that next wave of kids, right? And how soon can he get them to develop and contribute? Because it's one thing to have like that nice ranking next to your school in terms of where you recruited, but it's another thing where you have to actually get those kids on the field and having them produce based on what they're expected to. So that'll be the interesting thing to see. I think that's the next step that Michigan could take to get more closer to an Ohio State where they've been able to do that on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, well, and I think a big key of that is the development. Like it's not just getting the good players, the high, guys with the 4 and 5 star ratings. It's having those guys turn into really good college football players because all the 4 or 5 star ranking means is what you are projected to be in the NFL. It's either first rounder or whatever the case may be. but none of that has anything to do with what you are in college. It's a future projection. So I think taking a guy like Aiden, who I mean, if somebody saw this coming with the potential, well, he's going to be the number one pick in the draft. If somebody saw this coming this time last year, like, I mean, play the lottery because you saw something no one else did.
Right.
And same with Ojabo. I mean, literally the same thing. Unfortunately, he had the injury, but I didn't see this coming. So this to me is more the development because as far as Fatal Gators comment, Harbaugh is a really good recruiter. I mean, Michigan has basically outside of I think 1 year been in the top 10 in recruiting rankings. And I think they might have had 1 year at like 15 and maybe I think that might have been the 1 year, but call it 1 or 2 years off, but essentially he's always had top 10 talent. But I think the difference was the development of those guys and being able to get the talent out of them because we've seen Rashawn Gary, we've seen Jabril Peppers, we've seen guys who are really really highly rated guys come into Michigan and not have the overall impact that Aiden and Ojabo have had in this past season. Even for Peppers, if you want to talk about his last season, yeah, he had a couple of the punt returns and the he's playing offense and all that good stuff. But I mean, he had 60 tackles, 1 interception, like nothing that pops off the screen for you. And also too, the impact in the big games. Like what did you do against Penn State, Michigan State, and Ohio State? Because those things matter.
There's a couple things. I think about a kid like Jabril Peppers. I saw a blank name. Maybe use blank name, dude. Actual name, something.
Let him live his life.
I just think it's funny every time I see it. It's I'm not. I wasn't. I don't know if you're combating what I was saying or you were just adding an extra. No, I wasn't saying that Michigan has not identified and developed talent. I'm talking about doing it on a larger scale. Not just doing it. I get what you're saying. Going from a Chase Winovich and fighting a David Ojabo, right? Having Aiden take another step. Have Rashad Gary, and those guys leave, and then you find these other kids. I'm not saying that Michigan hasn't been able to do that. I'm talking about on a larger scale, right? As opposed to, finding 1 or 2 guys every year, maybe finding 3 or 4, right? That will help take you to another level. They've done a really good job. I'm talking about how do we get to the next level. Remember, that's been a question that we've had after this year, right? Now that we've experienced the Big Ten championship, we experienced a playoff appearance. Well, how do we take a potential next step? How do we maybe one day win the first round in the playoff and get to a national title game? So that's what we're focusing on now. It's not to say that Michigan hasn't or Harbaugh has done a good job with that. And I think another thing that, yes, Tyler, we have a long way to go.
I wanted to address this comment, but go ahead.
Yeah, and then I think about a kid. It's funny, Des. I think about a kid like Jabril Peppers, and I almost think that we got too cute with how we utilized him. I think about maybe he was one of those. He had so much raw ability, and potential that I feel like if we went to a place like Alabama. If we went to certain other programs, they may not have been as free to utilize him in so many different ways. Probably if I feel like he goes to play Alabama, Nick Saban is like, no, you're not returning. You're probably not doing all these different things. You're good. You're a good kid, but I don't need you there. I don't need you returning kicks. I don't need you playing on offense. I just need you playing safety, or I need you playing corner, right? No Viper position, and I'm going to take this raw, incredible ability that you have. And I'm going to make sure that you are fundamentally sound. I think that Earl Pepper should have gone. I think in the second round, he could have won the first round and maybe been a better pro. Like I said, I just when I was hearing you bring up Jabril Pepper, it just had me thinking about he was a good player. He had solid production everywhere, but he never was like great at one thing. And I feel like he had the raw ability to be great. Really really good player. From a and I know Dax Hill is probably a fringe first, definitely a second round pick. I think that Michigan utilized Dax Hill way better than Jabril Peppers, right? They didn't count like Dax Hill was another kid with blazing speed, just like Jabril Peppers had. I think he ran a sub 4.4 in high school, 4.35, something like that. But you didn't see Dak still doing too many different things, right? He primarily was on defense. And I think that maybe, I don't know, maybe Peppers could have been. I know it's irrelevant, but it just had me thinking about that. Sometimes you get too cute. That's all.
Well, I think, yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting season because I don't know. I felt like your run game was solid enough. Like I didn't think you needed Jabril offensively. Um, and also too, I mean, when you think about it, like the here's the my big frustration was all of the big plays, all the and he had some huge runs, he had some huge punt returns for touchdowns. But to me, like the tough part is I'm when I'm watching the highlights, like I'm someone that when I see your highlight, I immediately go down to the score and to see who you're playing. And for me, and maybe I'm crazy, I'm wrong, but so many
Interception
times
was Ohio
when I
State.
went down and looked at that, it was Indiana, it was Rutgers, it was Purdue, it was the bad that the disaster of a year I think with Michigan State. I'm like I want to see that stuff against Ohio State. Like I want to see the Aiden Hutchinson pancaking an offensive tackle, an Ohio State offensive tackle. That's what I want to see with Jabril. Like in a game that we needed, that's when I want to see the big plays. And it just for me it left me wanting more. But I'm also I don't know I when it comes to great players, I want you to be great in the moments that I need you to be great. Like what good is it for me is if you're my quarterback, you throw for 500 yards against Rutgers, but 200 against Ohio State and we lose. Like I don't need that. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that Michigan has I mean, because that's not just a long way to go. That's a long way to go to compete with
We
Georgia.
always see. I know you. Here you go. Go ahead, man.
Well, listen, I just
You
think
need to speed on this.
you need some breaks.
You're not that
You
far
need
away.
breaks.
It's
Number
like, go
one,
ahead, man. Whatever.
you need breaks to happen to go your way. Injuries. I mean, you look at I mean, I think Georgia was the better team against Alabama, but Alabama also lost their top two receivers. So if if injuries go your way, the biggest thing is to me is you got to you can't be in that four spot. The four spot is a buzzsaw. That's just not where you want to live. And I also too think this year was a bit of an anomaly because I don't think the team that should have been number one was at number one. Like I think just with how everything shook out with Bama and Georgia in the SEC championship, it was a little different. But I don't I don't know. To me, it takes one or two recruiting classes. I think Michigan is on the trajectory with changing the culture. Like I think the entitlement, all that stuff, and obviously I'm just someone on the outside looking in. I'm not an insider or anything like that. But with the Rashawn Gary group, like I just felt like that group was just entitled. I didn't love that. It just was like, hey, we're here and we're Michigan, which you should have that swagger, but the swagger should be from the hard work that you put in, not from the guys who have built this tradition. It should be from you and the work that your guys have put in. Which you hear comments like Cade,
That's different
talking
approach.
about the work that they've put in that
Right.
class and things like that. Like I think that culture is getting there. So I mean, I don't know. You might be a long way. I don't think you're a long way.
We'll see. I think the best chance you have to really take the next step is to be able to kind of ride the momentum of being in front of of these prime time recruit faces and kind of showing like, hey, you know what, you can play on the grandest stage at the University of Michigan, right? And how is Harbaugh and his staff able to capitalize with the fact that, hey, we were in the college football playoff. When it came to January, in the CFP, there was only four teams that were playing. One team in Cincinnati, Fickle's done a solid job, but the chances of getting back there, are not as they don't have a traditional rich football history like we do, and you're able to possibly now just kind of ride the momentum and say, hey, look, we've done this. We're not just the most wins in college football history. No, we won recently. We've got a conference title. You can be part of that too, right? And I think that's why I think it was so important for them to finally break through. And now, and think about these upcoming classes, guys who are seniors this fall and guys who are juniors. Try to really take advantage and get some of these 5-star kids, high 4-star, 5-star kids, who you probably normally couldn't get your foot in the door, or at least in their top 5, because they're looking at their top 5 are normally Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, because that's who they see all the time. Well, now guess what? They see Michigan recently. Now maybe you can be that 15 and you have legitimate chance, right? And then that, like you said, Des, once you're able to break through and get 3 or 4 of those guys, you start stringing together, some really good seasons, get a couple conference championships. Let's say in a 4-year span, you win 2 conference titles, you make 2 college football playoff appearances. But now you're talking about from a pedigree standpoint, going from being just a good program to like, wow, Michigan's a really good program. Michigan's not just a top 15 program in the country. Maybe they're top 7. That makes a huge difference in terms of how you look and for these recruits' eyes, and also guys who are looking to transfer. Guys who are big time recruits who are not, for whatever reason, panning out at Alabama or Georgia. They're like, well, I want to transfer and I want to play right away, but I definitely still want to play on this high stage too. Potentially even to go against these guys that I'm leaving. Now Michigan can be in the mix for that, right? Maybe Michigan at one point in time can get their version of Justin Fields, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and on top of it too, when you are a team that you do finally break through and you're one of the top 4 when it's all said and done, with the CFP, it sometimes it only takes one guy transferring in, and maybe it's not the quarterback, but a Justin Fields type of impact player, to where that's the guy that does get you over the hump. When you're building the culture and guys are starting to understand, like, oh, okay, we got to do a little bit more. We can't just, I can't just be at practice just, at the mandatory times. I've got to do a little bit more if I want to be the player that in my mind I want to be. I've got to do a little bit more. We've got to put the work in. So when you start to build that culture and you get close, it sometimes only takes 1 or 2 guys to make that, to really push you over the top, where you say, man, we get a explosive type of receiver, for sake of discussion, a David Bell, to where you say, hey, this is the guy that puts us over the top against Georgia, or this guy puts us over the top against Alabama. He could win a one-on-one matchup against whatever, Oklahoma. So those are the types of things that, when you're building it and you finally do break through, like, the one guy can really sway things a lot, to where you look at it like, man, he's the one, a Derrick Henry type, where it's like, man, that this guy really makes a huge impact. And now, instead of just getting to the college football playoff, like, we win the Big Ten, we get to the college football playoff, we win a playoff game, and now we're kind of neck and neck in a national championship, and all bets are off at that point. So
think about this. I mean, think about if you are a young, really talented running back in high school now. I mean, think about how cool it is to see Michigan rolling out a tandem of Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. You're like, ooh, for one, they get the ball a lot. I like the way they utilize in their offense. I'm fast, I'm quick, or I'm a thumper. They can find multiple roles for me to be explosive and utilized in that offense, right? Like those things matter, man. And how big would it be? Because I think we all believe Donovan Edwards, as long as he stays healthy, is going to be a star. He's going to be an absolute star. Well, I mean, imagine the impact of Donovan Edwards, is one day, dare I say, a Heisman Trophy finalist, or definitely a legitimate candidate, right? And somehow he finds himself getting, guys don't really get drafted in the first round anymore for running backs, unfortunately, due to changing the game. But, he goes, Donovan Edwards has a great career at Michigan, goes in the second round, right? Blake Corum gets a legitimate shot at NFL, third, fourth round pick as a weapon, or whatever. I mean, that's huge, man. Like, those things matter. They matter. They matter. They matter, right? And You just can't, replace that. I think one position that I would love to see Michigan really get a difference maker, like not just a good player like a Jake Buck. I mean, I'm talking about a guy like a uh uh give me a first round tight end, Des.
What you want? Noah Fant, T.J. Hawkinson, like O.J. Howard,
OJ Howard.
those types.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, find a way. Like, I would love to see Michigan one day to get like a legitimate first round type of tight end. That would be cool to see. Like those things, just take you to another level. I think Iowa. I don't think Iowa's ever recruited a 4-star tight end. I don't think TJ or Noah were 4-star. I'm sorry, 4-star. I'm not first round. 4-star kids.
I was gonna say I'm not quite sure. No,
I don't think so. I think they were like 3-star kids. I mean, Iowa just does an incredible job of development at the tight end position. I mean, that goes even George Kittle. My goodness. Like they do an incredible job. But yeah, Kyle Pitts, thank you, Ed. It'll be incredible to get a kid like that here. I mean, those are the type of kids where you just never know. All it takes is one. And you're like, man, and because when kids see someone that they can relate to, they've like, I could be him. Well, I could be better than him. If you're Ohio State now, but they got very, very fortunate. The guys were brothers, so that helps, right? You have a Joey Bosa, then you have a Nick Bosa. Then if you're Chase Young, you're like, man, Ohio State does a really good job of putting defensive ends in the NFL. I want to get paid. I can
at a high level too.
At a high level.
I think that's the difference because I think it was Blank Name who mentioned, Michigan having six edge players in the last 5 years. Well, there's a difference between being an edge player in, the last 6 years and being a top, I think Bosa was, or one of the Bosa boys was one was 4 with the other Bosa brother. And then Chase Young was number 2 or did he go 1? I mean, you're talking top 4 pick. That's different than, I'm a early second round pick, which, mind you, I'm not, pooping on anybody's draft stock. Wherever you get drafted, that's incredible. Making a roster, incredible. I get it.
Get that money.
But,
Get that money,
right,
man.
right, exactly. Like that's incredible. But there's a difference. Oh yes, practice player, please. Yes, that'd be great.
Yeah. Someone's Blake name said, "Isn't that what Eric All is?" No, I think Eric. No, I mean, I think Eric. I mean, he could take a step forward this year. I love the chemistry between him and Cade. But when I see Eric All, I'm not sure if I see the freakish talent. That he has really good size, but I don't see the athleticism that pops that would tell me that he's like a first round, second round type of tight end. Right, but he's a good football player. I wasn't saying that we don't have good tight ends. We've had good tight ends here. I was thinking about a guy who's a true,
the Georgia tight end. I can't remember that dude's name, but that dude was unguardable.
Yes. He's a true freshman.
Yes, Blake Bowers. That was his name. Bowers. That dude.
Bowers, yeah.
He's on another level. I don't think I've seen a tight end like him. And
he's from California, Des. That's the thing, man. These kids, dude, they will come from anywhere. If you have the opportunity, Brock Bowers, thank you.
Yep.
If you have the opportunity, you have the pedigree. They will come to you, and they could man. It doesn't take much. A guy like a young kid like Brock Bowers is going to be a problem for college football for the next 2 years. A big problem.
Yeah. Well, and Blake Name says no one has a Bowers except for Georgia. That's true. But I'm saying that is the point. Like you want to get a guy like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like one guy who is just like, holy cow, he changes everything.
It's not realistic to expect that every recruiting class. No one is saying that. What we're saying is that those type of hits help take you to another level when you are a team teetering. Right, going good, really good, but you're trying to get to those great programs, those type of kids, right? Yep. Finding them, I could be wrong. He could just be a good football player, and there's no shame in that. But I really do believe that Donovan Edwards is going to be one of those players. Like he's one of the. By the time he is draft eligible at Michigan, I think he will be one of the top 10 playmakers in the country, top 10, top 12 playmakers in the country. Doesn't matter position. I'm talking about playmaking,
Ooh.
explosive ability,
Okay.
weapon, right? I think he's going to be a top 10 weapon in college football, right? And so he's one of those kids. I think he's that diverse. And what you hope for is that you're able to find 2 more kids like that, right? And so that's what we're talking about. How can Michigan take that next step? Not that they have done a decent job already.
Yep. Agreed. Like I said, I think they're trending in the right direction. They got the culture. They're you're getting more and more of those high level guys, the 5 stars and things like that. So I think you're in good shape, and I think
Fatal Gator,
JJ will be part of
yes.
that change. I
Look,
think.
click on this for sorry, Des, but Fatal Gator makes a great point. But this is what Lincoln Riley is there to change. Yeah, all this Najee Harris, Bryce Young, CJ, JT Daniels, Brock Bowers. That's what you hope Lincoln Riley. Look, this isn't a USC show, but that's what they got. That's what they have Lincoln Riley for, right? And I'll tell you this, like Lincoln Riley, if he's going to be successful, if I can say 30 seconds of USC football, if he's going to be successful, he cannot allow that to happen anymore. Like, all he has to do, Des, is draw a line around the whole state of California.
That's a very long line.
I know
I
it's
mean,
a
you make
long
it seem
line.
like it's
No,
just
not even
recruit
that.
Miami and we're fine.
I'll take that back. Like,
You're talking about an entire state. I get what you're saying, but
the LA
it's a
area, essentially, like the LA Santa Monica area, like what is that? Southwest California? I don't know. Like, all he really has to do is draw a line around that and say, yeah, we're not letting any of these kids go, and they're going to be successful. Like, the pick of the litter, like it's insane to think about, but that's he has everything he needs. Like, there's no way. Look, I don't care. Look, we got like 8 minutes left, so we're gonna have fun. You guys know what we're here for. We do Michigan every week. We're gonna have a little fun. A little bit, another 30 seconds of you.
go ahead.
Like, Lincoln Riley has no excuse. No excuse. He has everything. He has an incredible house.
I'm sorry. Did I miss something? Did he have an excuse before, or
you don't like Lincoln Riley? You in this now? You gotta get some help about this, man.
can you
Like,
just
I
answer?
don't know
Can
what
you
your
just
bitch
answer the
Riley.
question? Did he have an excuse before?
You got something against him.
What did he
do?
lack? What did he lack at Oklahoma?
He was in Oklahoma.
Were they not willing to? Were they not willing to invest in the facilities?
Yes, dude. I'm just saying, like, he's okay. Look, even though I believe Oklahoma and Texas, that area is a clear hotbed of football talent. Like, of course, California may be a little bit better. I'm just saying, he's in Cali, USC, and also to be quite frank with you, there's really no one in that area in a Pac-12 that he really has to recruit against. Like, besides maybe Oregon. Other than that, like, come on, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's more about UCLA.
I'm just saying, you're making it seem like he was at a MAC school or something, and now he's at USC, and he's got a chance to win. And now, like, I mean, Oklahoma spared no expense. They were kings of the Big 12 every, I think, 13 straight years, something crazy like that. So yeah, Oklahoma. I mean, he did. Okay, like, yeah, USC is definitely a bigger brand than Oklahoma is, but let's not make it seem like Oklahoma was holding Lincoln Riley back. That wasn't happening.
Hold on, Blake, man. Now, I don't even want to do this question because it's going to seem like really high. You say that the guy won a Big Ten title. So, Blake, man, you wouldn't take Lincoln Riley over Harbaugh? Lincoln Riley, blue pill. Lincoln Riley, Harbaugh, red pill. Take one instantly. You wake up tomorrow. That's your reality.
Yeah, but he's saying. Well, I don't think he's saying he would take Lincoln. He didn't say Jim Harbaugh at all.
I'm not talking to you, Dad. I'm talking to Blake Name.
So you're asking Blank Name if he would rather have Jim Harbaugh or Lincoln Riley. That's the question?
Yes.
Okay. Blank Name, you are on the clock. Would you rather have Jim Harbaugh or Lincoln Riley? I mean, it just all I'm saying is he was not handcuffed at Oklahoma. He had everything that he needed that any Power 5 major program would need to win a national championship.
Wow. Okay.
There's a couple Harbaughs in there.
Ooh,
there's quite a few.
Well, see, here's the thing. I can't lie and say that Lincoln Riley. I mean, Lincoln like he hasn't won a national title, but he's been to the CFP just as much as Harbaugh has. They both got one appearance, I believe, right?
No,
No, two.
false.
He has two. Lincoln Riley has two appearances.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, he has multiple
And
conference
he has a national.
championships.
Well, Lincoln's got two, and he's been to a national championship. Wait, no, he has
No,
not.
he hasn't. No,
I'm
no, no,
sorry.
he hasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he has two, and he has multiple conference championships. I don't know, man. Anyway, I think that I like Lincoln Riley. I'm sorry, maybe I'm just biased. I like Lincoln Riley, and I love that the offense that he has, and the pipeline he's able to generate with that. So I'm probably
Well,
biased.
the last thing I wanted to cover, we just got a couple minutes left. So the Lakers season is over. And obviously it's not a Lakers podcast. It's basically because Juwan Howard has been rumored to be a potential candidate for the Lakers job. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as a Michigan basketball fan, I think Juwan Howard had to be checked mentally if he decided to take that Lakers job right now. And that's not to me to say because he'll leave Michigan. For one, it's like not to get too NBA geeky on you guys, but the Lakers are in a terrible situation. I'll put it this way: for one, if you're going to take your first, and we saw this with John Beeline, if you're going to take your first NBA coaching job and you want it to be successful, make sure that you have the right infrastructure in the organization in terms of talent and cap space and all other factors that are needed um, to be able to to have a team that you can be successful with. And the Lakers are terrible. They're old. They're capped out. LeBron's probably leaving soon. AD can't stay healthy. Russ is a disaster. It'll be a terrible decision. He'll take the Lakers job and he'll be fired within a year or two.
The only thing I think is if you're gonna get a job in the NBA is you want to have a job where you can have a superstar on your roster because as we see like you need at least one
Mm-hmm.
to even have a shot. Like you need to have at least one. The Lakers do, but it's tough because LeBron is so close to the end. I mean, even if you say he's got 4 years left, okay, that's still pretty close to the end.
Yeah.
And Anthony Davis is just a mess. Like he can't stay healthy. I think Juwan Howard would have the cachet that he could last, 2, 3 years, 4 years, even if things aren't going well. I think he's got that cachet that he'd be able to stay through that. But I don't see why he would want that job, to be quite frank. I think he's going to get NBA interest. Like again,
Yeah.
like this is going to be a regular thing. Um, but I just don't know why you would want to sign up for that. I mean, well, just like we were talking, it is LA, so location.
Um,
That's one of. I mean, you know.
I think just like this applies to college football, and basketball, just coaching in general. When you're looking at taking different opportunities, going from college to pro, I mean, especially when you're in a good situation, it really has to be, especially when you're younger. Like Juwan Howard has plenty of years left to coach, right?
Hmm.
You don't have to rush and just take a job. Continue to build yourself. Continue. I think he really hasn't coached that long too as a head coach. He's only been a head coach for what, 4 years now, 3 or 4 years tops. The University of Michigan was his first head coaching opportunity. Continue to build yourself, continue to learn. Clearly, this past year showed you he still has a lot of maturing to do, and growth to go through. So continue to work on yourself, build your alma mater up, and eventually, the right opportunity will present itself. But it's definitely not the LA Lakers, So don't rush that and continue to do what you do. And believe me, Des, if it was like a legitimate opportunity that I thought was like, that's a situation that he could be successful, I wouldn't bat an eye because I would like if say the Warriors job opened up, and they're interested in Juwan Howard, okay, yes, take that job,
Yeah.
But it's just not. It's just not.
I mean, you've been hearing rumors that that some of the front office staff, like Kurt Rambis and Rob Pelinka, are in coaches meetings and like players meetings.
Yeah.
Like what? That no. They're just I don't get it. I don't think the Lakers truly want to win because doing this foolishness, no. And then like Quinn Snyder and Nick Nurse, I'm like, these are two coaches that are both under contract. What are you talking about? It's
Yeah,
just a
and,
mess.
and,
But
and with good organizations in the Jazz in Toronto, I mean, you're trying. I think organizations like it's like the Yankees, just like the Cowboys, like any professional team you want to bring in, no matter the sport, when they have a cachet name, they always think that they can just use their name and pluck anybody from anywhere. But what we have learned over time, and it's also in college football as well, that when guys have it made, that they have the support, they have the backing, um, they have the trust, they have the autonomy. It's very, very hard to get them to leave. And you have to either really, really overpay just to have a chance to get your foot in the door. Look, because money talks, and the stuff walks. Like it's, so yeah, if the Lakers called in, offer him the same amount of money, I mean, yeah, he might take it. But other than that, man, um, he'll stay where he is.
yeah, it's the Lakers are an absolute toxic environment. But we talked a little bit about Lakers on our last podcast, the Dre and Dez podcast. We are on Spotify, so check us out there. But yeah, so we talked about it then, and then obviously we talk all the time. But yeah, they're Lakers are a mess. So, but anyway, I think we are good here. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. We definitely appreciate it. We tried to get to more questions this week than we did last week. So tune in. We will be here next week, 5:30 Eastern Standard Time for about a week or about an hour, not a week. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Definitely appreciate it. I got a puppy who's itching to go outside, so I'm on duty. So anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Peace.